Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Jazz is Not What You Think, the podcast that delves deep into the world of jazz with your host, Michael Fagan. In this episode of Jazz is Not What You Think, we delve into the intriguing world of Finnish double bass player and composer Kaisa Mäensivu. But before we dive in, we'd like to give a shout out to the sponsor of this episode, the Jazziz Vinyl Club. Picture this, jazz aficionados. As a member of the Jazziz Vinyl Club, you'll receive not one, not two, but 4 premium edition 180-gram vinyl albums carefully curated by the Jazziz editors. These albums feature tracks from jazz legends and today's top artists handpicked just for you. And here's the cherry on top. These vinyl gems will be delivered to your doorstep 4 times a year. It's like Christmas for jazz lovers all year round. But wait, there's more. Each vinyl album comes complete with liner notes penned by Jazziz writers, offering you a deeper dive into the music and the artists behind it. And let's not forget the custom design album cover that makes these vinyl albums true collector's items. So if you're ready to enrich your jazz collection with the finest tunes and exclusive vinyls, look no further than the Jazziz Vinyl Club. It's the club where music lovers and vinyl enthusiasts unite. This is Jazz Is Not What You Think.
Welcome, Kaisa. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I just want to jump right into it. By the way, for our viewers and listeners, pronounce your last name because we see it in print, but we don't hear people say it. And since most of us in the U.S. are not Finnish or don't speak Finnish, how do you pronounce your last name so we get it right?
It's Mäensivu.
Mäensivu. Okay.
Nice. You got it. It's
good.
Definitely a big challenge for many.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's been pronounced so many different ways in my office. I figured I'm going to go right to the source. And you know, as you probably know, that one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you today is we're doing a special issue all about women leaders. And one of the first things I want to ask you before I jump into the new album, which I enjoyed very much, is on your path to success relatively early in your career, you know, as a player, composer, band leader, as a woman, what were your trials and tribulations? And we like to ask this question because we're a magazine that's produced by men. And sometimes we don't understand certain things. And we're having a whole issue that addresses that. Not necessarily that it focuses on equality or inequality, but we know there are challenges to everyone in this business, especially in this day and age. What were some of yours at being a woman, band leader, composer, player?
I appreciate you asking that question, and thanks for that nice words. For me, I think the biggest obstacle has been just the lack of idols, lack of female instrumentalists to look up to, and that's actually one of the main reasons I started to play the bass was after I had seen a female upright bass player in a music video on TV. It was unrelated to the music yet. It wasn't anything. It wasn't even jazz or anything. But just seeing that was really important to me. And I've struggled with having basically 0 to 1 female colleagues on my at school and also in the professional field. It's always been something that's been kind of missing.
So, you know, one of the things that I addressed this issue is the difference between inequality and equity. So, you know, we all wrestle with men and women are treated differently. And so there's the equality is an issue that we talk about a lot. But as far as equity, you succeeded in becoming a wonderful bass player, great composer, great band leader. It seems like you either worked extremely hard or you had maybe some of the assets, some of the opportunities, some of the things that are available to men available to you. Was it harder for you as a woman to actually succeed?
I think it's a tough question because I only have my own perspective, and it's hard to know how things could have gone if I was a male upright bassist. But I've certainly always been encouraged to to play jazz, and even if it's always been a male dominated field, I've noticed in myself I'm very good at kind of forgetting about anything like any like bad experiences.
Uh-huh.
I prefer just moving on and not worrying about so much. But I've definitely been encouraged. I feel like you stick out a little bit, of course,
Mhm.
and it can be a good thing also. It can be a bad thing, and you kind of face um, certain uh, uh, certain things,
Like,
what people believe, like you get asked a lot when you show up at the venue, like, oh, you're the singer, this kind of stuff. But it's like, it's nothing, it doesn't really bring my mood down anymore or anything. It's just sometimes you have to kind of educate people one at a time, and it's just I don't mind doing the work. I think we're slowly changing the world, and there are also benefits in kind of standing out from the other musicians.
great. Well, thank you for that. It's a real good explanation. And it explains a lot where you are today. And that when I first listened to your album, the track that grabbed me was Dream Team, and I'm sure there's a meaning behind that. But one of the things that I initially thought of is the complexity and the musicality, similar to like a Pat Metheny group, where I have a longtime contributor who's been writing for Jazziz since 1983 named Eric Snyder. He's still with us. And he called it Metheny swing. There's a certain rhythmic element to Metheny's music that's undeniable. Um, was either the Metheny group or the bassist Steve Rodby an influence?
Metheny, for a certain extent, for sure. Yeah, I love his playing, obviously, and his music, and rhythm. I've always been very rhythm based
Mm-hmm.
uh, musician. I feel like that's always been my forte, and what also like excites me.
Did you so when you got a master's degree at the Manhattan School of Music,
That's
do
right.
you stay on and do visiting, classes and seminars, and or do you stay in touch with the Manhattan School of Music? I know that you're currently are you living now in the UK, or are you in Finland, or are you here?
I'm in New York. Yeah, that's my
Okay.
home base. I've been in Europe for over a month now, but yeah, I
Okay.
home is in New York. And yeah, I stay in touch a little bit with Manhattan School. I haven't. It's been a minute now, but I go back there to accompany at the auditions and things like that.
Wow. And so on the new album, um, wonderful players in addition to yourself. Looking at the roster, I was particularly struck by the guitar player. I think it was Max Light, and has that sort of a Kurt Rosenwinkel sound, and it's very striking, very beautiful, very melodic. And then Sasha Berliner on vibes. That also kind of, I hate to keep bringing up Metheny, but that brought me back to the Burton Metheny days, where there was this very cool interaction, bass, guitar, vibes. Tell me about that and that band, which I know is different than your touring band, but how that came together to create this really quite magical sound.
Yeah, so um, that's actually something that fascinated me. Also, there's that album with Vibes guitar, those guys, and then Chicory on piano and Dave Holland on bass. And that's like, it's basically all rhythm section instruments, and it sounds amazing. Like, it's really rare combination of instruments. For, I guess the reason is that people look at it as a it would be like only rhythm section instruments, but they really work well together. And I really love the sound with between guitar and vibraphone. And there's that one track on the album also, Gravity, where the melody
Mm-hmm.
is played by those two instruments. On the live shows, I feel like I only need one person to kind of provide that sound. So it's
Mhm.
most of the time it's guitar, and then Sasha is also doing some shows with us now in the US later this month. But Max has been doing most of the live shows. Also, it's a practical matter. You can't really have a sextet on all live
Sure.
concerts. But yeah, that was just a kind of a new combination of instruments that I was getting really into. It's funny I told when I had the idea for the album and the instrumentation and everything, I told a piano player friend
Mhm.
about it, and she was fully like, wow, like that's crazy, like you're gonna put that many like chordal instruments on your album, like as a bass player, like are they all gonna just, you know, like you're gonna disappear in that mix? But I feel like it's the opposite. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful combination of sounds.
you stand out perfectly. So the this album, your latest album, is on Greenleaf Music, Dave Douglas's label. How did you connect with Dave?
Dave, I've been, of course, I've seen him live many times, and I've been following his journey, and I met him. I think I met him in New York in one of his shows, and just kind of saw him around. Um, and then when I had the album idea together and the recordings and the master and everything ready, I contacted, you know, a couple labels if they would be interested in putting it out, and Greenleaf was interested, and Dave was really into the music and the project, and it really seemed like the best way to do it. I've loved working with them. It's a fairly small label, but they really care about all their artists. So
Dave's a quality, just a quality player,
yeah.
and it's a quality label. I think it's a great marriage. Um, so finally, tell me about the name Kaisa's Machine. What does that mean?
It just refers to the band and the combination of it's like this machinery that I lead in a way, musical machinery. Um, it's I feel like it's nice way to also, sometimes I have different lineups in my live shows, and it's kind of varies who's doing it, whether I'm playing in Europe or in the US. So it's also, I feel like it kind of reflects the how I run it. It's just my little, you know, my little machine that I work.
Well, um, it's a wonderful machine. It's a really, really great album to listen to. I encourage everyone to check it out. It was in my exploration for women leaders. You are definitely a standout, and I wish you the best success. I'll be listening to this album a lot over the coming months, and I hope to see you live here in the U.S. and see what happens in the future. I have a lot of ideas about where you could go from here, and we'll see what happens. But thank you so much, and it was great having you.
Thank you for having me, and thanks so much for all the nice words. Really appreciate what you do.
We appreciate you. All right, take care. Be well.
Thank you.